All right, everybody. Welcome to Advanced Reporting Tips and Tricks for New Admins. My name is Aaron Crear. Before we get started, how many folks here are full-time admins? How many people are sales and marketing background? Operations, finance, everything else? Okay, we have a kind of a good mix here. All of your groups, you'll find use cases for all of these things. So you'll have a lot to learn. Just a little background about myself. Why am I here? I'm a recovering sales manager. Thank you. Proud to say I haven't made a cold call or begged somebody for a purchase order in almost 6 years, and I've never felt better. Thank you. So I started using Salesforce around 2009 as an inside sales rep. So logging activities, creating opportunities, and became a sales manager, managing a pipeline and a whole team, and became kind of the accidental admin at a bunch of the companies that I worked for. About 6 years ago, I decided I was done with sales. I was tired of having a quota hanging over my head, but I really loved Salesforce and I really wanted to do something technical. So I kind of rolled the dice, began with Trailhead, started studying for certs. I have 8 now. I speak at a ton of these events because I really like teaching, and it's kind of my way of giving back, because I feel real fortunate that I was able to make that career pivot. I'm also one of the co-organizers of Northeast Streaming, and I'm also the leader of the Lowell, Massachusetts Salesforce admin group, and I'm the co-founder of reportforce.blog, and I have what I think are the biggest stickers at London's Calling for anybody that wants any. All right. So all the things I'm going to show you are really, really simple features and functions once you know they exist, but there was certainly a time in my career where I didn't. So they're going to give you a lot of help to make you more efficient in your jobs. You're also going to empower your users and give them a lot more value and do things a lot quicker. So our topics today are going to be cross filters, field-to-field filters, power of one and unique values, custom summary and row-level formulas, buckets, join reports, and custom report types. So for each section, we'll have a little overview, we'll have a couple of use cases, and then I'll live demo the features for you. Cross filters, they allow you to filter reports by objects instead of just fields. These objects are dependent on the parent object of the report type. We get a couple of use cases here. So a marketing manager wants to identify all accounts without contacts to get some more into their funnel. Director of sales wants to review all accounts with opportunities in order to identify industry trends, but only focusing on new customers. And then as a sales rep, all contacts part of opportunities should have activities, and you want to make sure you've done your job. So we will look at our demo of cross filters. So the first one we're going to look at, accounts without contacts. So the first time somebody asked me for this, I had no idea what a cross filter was, didn't know it existed. So the only way I could give them what they needed was to export the entire database into Excel, create a bunch of formulas that basically counted if there were contacts, returned the value in a column. It took me hours. Not fun. So we're going to look at how quickly we can do it with a cross filter. So this version of the report right here is all accounts. There's no filters on it yet. I'm just going to open it up, and we'll take a look at how we add our cross filter. So we just hit our normal filters tab here. And then I'm going to hit this, add cross filter. And all cross filter is basically a with or without statement, one object with or without the other. So we have accounts, and you can see here, that's my only option. That's based on the report type, which you can see up here in the top left. It's just an accounts report. And we're going to say without. And we're going to find our related objects. And in this case, we want contacts. And we'll apply. And now I've reduced my results down. I'm only showing the accounts that have no contacts. If we have no contacts, why are they in here, right? Somebody needs to go on LinkedIn or somewhere else, get some names, some emails, so we can actually start reaching out to these folks. Our next version, we're going to look at accounts with opportunities, but we only care about opportunities with new customers. So we will edit our report, and we'll take a look at our cross filter. All right, we can see here we have our accounts with opportunities, so we've already added our cross filter. So we're filtering out the accounts without, but we only care about new business. So within our cross filter, I'm actually going to filter further on new business. So this is actually really cool because what I just filtered on is a field on the opportunity, right? It's the type field on the opportunity. But if you look up here on the left, this is just an accounts report. It's not accounts with opportunities. So it's a really efficient way, not having these more complex reports. We can, within the cross filter itself, we can filter on fields from that other object, even though those objects really aren't in the report. Then I'll look at our final version. It's contacts without activities. So when I was a sales rep, I had a boss who wanted to have a meeting every Friday at 4:30. I don't know about you, but at 4:30 on a Friday, I want to log out, crack a beer. I don't want to revisit what I did all week, or more importantly, what I forgot to do all week. So after about a month of that, I said, this is for the birds. I got to figure out a way to get these things over with quicker, get him the info he needs, and move on with my weekend. So I started creating reports for myself, and this was one of them. So here we have to have activities with all of our contacts that are part of opportunities. So we're going to take a peek at our cross filter here. Contacts without activities. So I'm going to make sure I cover my butt and make sure I reach out to these folks, but we only care about ones that have opportunities. So I'm actually going to add a second cross filter, and we're going to say with opportunities. And now I have my list. I know I need to reach out to these people before that call on Friday afternoon. So 3 real quick ways to use cross filters. We'll move on to our next section, which is field-to-field filters. This allows you to compare values of two report fields. It is Lightning experience only. So a marketing team wants to evaluate all campaigns that have an actual cost more than the budgeted cost to help with budget planning for next year. Real common example. So we'll take a look at our demo here. We're going to look at our over budget campaigns report. In this report, you're going to see a couple of columns, one with the budgeted cost, one with the actual. And if we look at this, which on the far right, we're going to see that every row that's returned here is greater than the one on the left. So the far right column is always greater than the left column here. So how did we do that? If we edit our report, we'll take a look at our filter. And you're all probably used to writing a filter that would say, you know, greater than 100 grand, less than 100 grand, right? Same idea, except we're doing it based on the field instead of the value. This is the difference. So we're selecting the field, and we're saying field 1 is greater than field 2, essentially. And then what I've done is return the results. We only want to see the ones that went over budget. All right, power of one and unique counts. They allow you to summarize and count objects in reports. Unique count's a newer feature, gives you real quick visibility into reports. Power of one has been around for quite a while. Anybody heard of a guy named Steve Moe? He's an MVP from Boston. He posted about Power of one for years and years and years. Unique count is 100% derived from that. They both essentially do the same thing, but just depending on what you're trying to do, which one is going to be better for you. So Power of one is a custom formula field. I recommend you do it on every object. I really think it's the best practice to name it the same of the object, and I'll explain why in a minute. And it's useful in roll-ups and additional formulas where unique count isn't so functional in that area. So a sales director wants a report that shows pipeline summary by stage that breaks down the number of opportunities, accounts, and products. So we'll look at a pipeline composition report here. And once this loads, we're going to see basically a funnel chart by stage telling us what we have in each bucket. And then we have columns here for sum of opportunities, accounts, opportunity products, and products. On the far right, we also have record count. I never ever use record count unless it's a single object report because I think it's really confusing to users what it's actually counting. which is, in this case, just counting the rows. So if an opportunity has multiple products, there's going to be multiple rows for that op. So I always try and use something else other than record count if it's multiple objects. So this is the type of report you're going to use to judge the health of your pipeline. So is too much of your funnel weighted too heavily on a brand new customer where if you don't get that win, you're going to take a big hit? Or on the product side, is it much too heavily weighted on a new product, which you just found out is going to be delayed in release for a month? That can crush a quarter for the company. So it's just trying to judge the health of what's in your pipeline. So each of these columns here is a formula of the power of one. So we're going to take a look at how we created that. We're going to jump over to setup, and then we'll go into object manager, and I'm going to go to accounts because I'm lazy and it's the first one alphabetically. And then we'll take a look at our actual field. And I've just named it accounts. And I'm going to edit it so we can see how it works. And it's a formula. We're returning the type number, 0 decimal places. Now the really complex part is the formula itself, which is right here in the big white box, which is just the number 1. That's the entire formula. And it basically just allows it to count itself. Okay. Now I told you at the beginning of this section, name it the same as the object. I haven't named accounts here, and why is that? So I read Steve Moe's blog post and I said, wow, this is great. I'm going to go do this. And I went into one of my orgs and I put it on every single object in my org. And on every single object, I named it the power of 1. And then I had 4 columns there called the power of 1. I had no idea what went to what object. So I very quickly realized there was a better way to do that. Now, unique count does essentially the same thing. To do that, we're going to edit our report. And we're going to turn our detail rows on for a minute. And I'll just do it on the accounts because that's what we were just talking about. We're going to click the little drop down here. If I can get it to hold, show unique count. Turn off our details. And we'll run. We'll scroll down. And now we have a column here for unique count. And we can see it's giving us a 14. The power of 1 is doing the same thing. So a really quick way, if you're just trying to get that quick synopsis, unique count's the way to go. Power of 1 still has a lot of value in other ways. You can use it in formulas. You can use it to mirror. I've put it in flows to do roll-ups on objects that aren't master detail where you can't use a standard roll-up summary field. So there's a lot of use cases. You can embed it in formulas. But if you just need the quick numbers, unique count's the way to go. Go to our next section. Custom summary and row level formulas. Custom summary are used to calculate totals in summary, matrix, and join. They're based on numeric fields only, which can be summarized. Can't be used with expressions, fields, or values. They're unique to the report. So anytime you're using formulas in the report, just think about how often you're going to use them, because you can obviously clone your report, but if you're going to use a similar formula in different types of reports, you may be better off creating formula fields on the objects themselves so you don't just have to keep writing the same type of formulas. Row level formulas allow calculations on every row, and they give you flexibility outside of the numeric fields, which are limited in summaries. They can definitely help you reduce the number of formula fields in your org. I'll give you an example of that in a few minutes. And again, these are unique to the report as well. So marketing department needs to know what percentage of leads created were converted, standard conversion metric that every organization uses. You want to give the sales team a visual representation of where sales are compared to goal. Again, very common. An executive wants to see how many days between an opportunity is created and closed to see what their sales cycle looks like. And then a territory manager wants to evaluate all opportunities that have a different owner than the account owner to do some territory planning for potential realignment. All right, so for our lead conversion, I'm going to show you 2 versions of this. The first one here is not using a formula at all. It's standard out-of-the-box functionality. And we're just going to see here that we have a donut chart. And when we hover, we can see, basically, I've just filtered this on the converted system field, true or false. And then if we hover over this, we can see our percentage. Works perfectly fine, nothing wrong with this. But you may want to have a different type of visual display. Maybe you want to show that actual percentage in a row down on the table. So to do that, we can use a formula. So we'll look at our version 2 of our conversion rate. And when I edit this, we'll take a look. This is using a custom summary formula. We can see here we have our bars, which are the number of leads. Then our line is the conversion rate. If we scroll down, we can now see that conversion rate in the rows. And we can see the little FX here next to conversion rate is telling us that's a formula. So how do we create that? We'll edit our report, and we will find our conversion rate formula. And we can see here we have the converted sum divided by lead.lead sum. That looks a little bit weird, right? Lead.lead sum. That's actually the power of 1 on the lead object. I'm using it in here to say what we did before. Now we're embedding that inside a formula. Now this is a single object report. It's just leads. So I could swap that out for row count, and it's the exact same thing. Just an example of how you can embed it into a formula. Look at our next example, which is our sales to goal. Find my report. There we go. And we're going to see here, once this opens, we're going to have horizontal bars, which are what's been sold for that month. And then we're going to have a horizontal line, which is what our sales goal is. So the first time I built this report, I was visiting one of my customers, and I walked by her desk. She got Excel, she got a calculator, she got pen and paper, she's swearing, she's got her head in her hand like this. And I'm like, Elizabeth, what's the matter? I said, I now have to tell the board where we are compared to our sales goal. They don't use forecasting in Salesforce. They don't have any custom objects. Their goals literally live nowhere in Salesforce. They have a very simple model. Their number is the same every month. It's flat. So I said, we can do that just in a report. It'll give you exactly what you need. We don't have to build anything fancy here. And this is what we did. So if we scroll down a bit, this is actually using 4 custom summary formulas. We have our monthly goal, percentage to monthly goal, annual goal, and percentage to annual. We'll take a look at how we did that. If I click into my first one, monthly goal, here's a formula, ABS 500K. All ABS really means is absolute value. Whatever you put inside of the parentheses, that's what it's going to return for a value. And we have that group by month, so I want that to return for every single row. So to do that, when I display it, I'm displaying it at my specific grouping, which in this case is close date, which is close month. If we look at our next one, we're looking at our percentage to monthly goal, and we're just saying amount sum divided by that 500K. So it's going to give us our percentage, and again, we're displaying it at our specific group, which is close date. For our annuals, it's the exact same idea, except we're just displaying it a bit different. If I can get my report to load. We'll close. Let's try this again. Wouldn't be a live demo without glitches, would it? That. We'll look at our annual goal. ABS 6 million. So we've taken that 500K and multiplied it by 12. But we're displaying this just at the grand total because we just want to see it at the bottom. We don't want to return that in each row because all we care about is what the total is. And then if we look at our percentage, we're doing the exact same thing. We're just dividing amount sum divided by that 6 million. So again, this is a very simple use case where it's flat. If your quotas change, month to month, quarter to quarter, you may be better off using like a case formula on objects or a custom object, something like that. But for simple use cases, this works perfectly fine. All right, we'll jump to our next section, which is buckets. Buckets allow you to categorize a group of values. You can use a custom name for each bucket. Doesn't require formulas or custom fields. I kind of equate it to how opportunity stage forecast categories are. So your beginning stages are in, maybe best case, or your end one's towards close one, or in your commit. Just kind of same idea. We're taking a group of values and we're putting them together in a bucket. So you're tasked with creating a sales by region report. Opportunities from accounts in the US and Canada should be combined into NA, and all countries in Europe should be combined into Europe. Take a peek at our demo. We'll look at sales by region. Look, I forgot a couple. We got to go back. I forgot a couple of our formulas. We're going to look at opportunity days to close. So we did our 2 custom summary formulas. I'm going to show you the 2 row formulas here. So opportunity days to close. This is a real common example. How many people have a field like this in their org? Something similar. It's really common. Before row level formulas were available, it was really the only way to do it. If you just need to consume it through a report, get rid of that field. There's no need for it anymore. That's 90% of the reason people want them, just to see it in a report. You don't necessarily want to see it on the opportunity itself. So for things like that, it's a good way to clean it up. So we can see our formula here, our FX. And we'll take a look at it. And we have right here, we have our edit. We'll edit our formula. And we're returning a number. That's our type. No decimal places, and then we just have close date minus date value of created date. We have to use date value because technically created date is a date time field. So we're just extracting the date only from that. And that's what allows us to produce the number so we can judge how long our sales cycle is. Again, anything you're going to just consume in a report, if you can use a row level formula like this, that's the way to go. Right now there is, you can only have 1 per report. I did speak with the product team in Dreamforce back in September, and they're trying to work through that. There are significant performance impacts when they try and get to an additional 1 or 2. So it's something that I would imagine will be available at some point. I don't know when. Our next one, we're going to look at ops with a different owner than what the account owner is. And this is also a row level formula. We're going to edit this. We can see here, we have our opportunity owner, we have our account owner, and then we have a formula just called same owner. And it's returned no. We can see in every row there. So if I click into our formula, we're using a text now. So we're basically using a simple if statement, and we're just saying if account owner equals full name. In this case, full name is the opportunity owner. Return a yes. If not, return a no. So we have our column here. Then we can see every row is saying no. That's because we're also able to use that formula as a filter in our report. So I'm only showing the ones that have returned no. All right, now just to go back. So we're going to look at our buckets use case now. So you're trying to create a sales by region report. Opportunities from accounts in the US and Canada should be combined into NA. Countries in Europe should be combined into Europe. So if I look at our sales by region, we're going to see here that we have a chart and it's grouping by region. We have Europe, we have NA, and then we have other. And if we scroll down here, we can see here with the bucket icon. So it's telling us this is a bucketed values. So if we edit that, see here, our bucket, and we're going to edit our bucket column. So buckets, you have to select a field. So we're saying, in this case, we're using billing country. And then we can see here we have two buckets, one for NA and one for Europe. And then we had that in the chart, we had a section for other. That's because we had this box checked and we had unbucketed values. So you can see here, France is in the purple bucket, USA is in the blue, but I want to get these two values in that NA. So I'm just going to move them. Now if I look at my unbucketed value, I have China. So I should probably add a new bucket. Let's call this Asia. Now I still have to go back and slide this into our new bucket. It will apply, and it will run. And now we have our Asia. So good way to use it for those groupings. Again, if it's something you're going to do over and over again, you may be better off building something on the objects themselves that looks at, a formula that looks at the address and returns a region, or something automated. But if you just need to consume it here, this works great. All right, joined reports. They allow you to view different types of information within a single report. You can have up to 5 blocks. Blocks can be cross-object. So our use case is a sales director wants one report that shows sales for month, year to date, and last 12 months. Okay. I saw somebody posted a question in the app to say, what's a use case for joined reports? So this is a use case. It's really personal preference. If this was me, I would have a dashboard with 3 charts for these components, or a filter on a dashboard. Some people just like the report. For whatever reason, they have to have it that way. Can't do it any other way. I have to have it. It's got to be there. This format. There's people like that out there. There are use cases for this. I'll give you an example at the end. But it really is, to me, personal preference versus a dashboard. So we'll look at our sales for the month, year to date, last 12 months. And we can see here we have basically 3 blocks of data, each for one of those time periods. So we have the month, then we have the year, then we have the last 12 months. And we can see we're showing close date, amount, opportunity name, and all of them. So when we edit this, first thing you would have to do if you're creating a new report, it's always going to default to this. You would just have to switch it over here. That's how you would start a joined report. And then we can see here we have our blocks. Now you can have up to 5. So why don't we add one for, say, the last 2 years. So I'm going to add a new block. I'm going to say opportunities because I want to keep it consistent with what we had. The new block always goes to the far right. People freak out and they think, oh my God, it didn't get added. It always goes to the far right. So you just have to scroll over and then you can see your new block. You want to give it a name. So why don't we just say last 2 years. Now we also have to adjust our fields. So maybe we want to match it exactly to what we have. So I'm just going to remove all my columns. And then I'm going to add our close date. Our amount. And our op name. And now our new block matches, but we still have one more step. We need to flip over our filters. Just like we can select the columns in each section, we can adjust the filters differently in each section. So for this, we're going to just say, let's just say previous, get my mouse to work, previous 2 fiscal years. We'll hit apply, and then we only care about ops we won. So now we have 4 time periods all in one view. So again, dashboard would do the exact same thing. But one benefit of joined reports is these can be cross-object. So I can add a block here maybe I want to see lead information. I can add that in here, and it's going to, again, put it all the way over to the far right, which we can see. And then again, we can adjust what columns are in there. We can see here the block has a different color. So all the opportunity ones were blue. This one is green. It's telling us it's a different object. And then in our filters, we could say all time as an example. So this might be one use case where maybe you want like a weekly snapshot report. It says, how many new leads, new ops, new cases did we have? This would do it for you. Again, dashboard can do the same thing, but that's one use case where you can use multiple objects within the same report. All right. Next section is going to be custom report types. They allow you to create more complex reports not provided by standard reports. You can have up to 4 objects, primary and secondary, which must be related. You can choose whether the secondary may or may not have an associated record, and you can select which fields from the objects are available in the report type. So a marketing manager would like to see what activity volume campaigns are driving to the visibility of a contact level. So it's real easy for us to see contacts and their activities, or campaigns and their contacts. But there's really not a clear line of sight, say, from a campaign to a contact to activities, all the way down through. So we can use a custom report type to do that. And we'll look at our activity volume for our newsletter. And these are the types of reports that I'll build a lot for sales teams as kind of their call sheets. So we have all the sponsors out there that, they're scanning your badges. They're going to be reaching out to you next week. They have a job to follow up with everybody. So a report like this can be a call sheet after an event, as an example. All we're returning is the contact, the campaign, and then activities. And we can see here, I have some people that do have an activity and some that don't. So for this, I may want to filter that and just say, I only care about the ones that don't have activities because I've already reached out to the others and I just don't want it cluttering out my view. So I could say activities. Come on. There we go. And say less than 1. And now it's returning just the ones I haven't called. And this activities field is the power of 1 on the activities object. So we're using it again in another way to filter out so we only follow up with the folks we need to. So to do that, we created a custom report type to get those objects together. And we'll show you how to do that. So you hop over to setup, and then over on the quick search on the left, we just hit report types. And then we can see here, we have our activity volume, the contacts. And if we edit this, you can see we have campaigns. And we're saying each campaign must have at least 1 contact. So what that means is if you have campaigns that only have leads, they're automatically filtered out of this report. So you need to be really careful with these settings. But then we're saying some of those contacts have activities and some don't. So when you're building custom report types, be real careful with this and make sure you name them something really kind of user-friendly. So like example in the first section, we did a cross filter of accounts with or without contacts. An accounts with contacts report to me means they have contacts. It's automatically filtering out the ones that don't. So if it's going to be like a with or without, I'll typically name mine, object A with or without object B, literally in the name, so people understand exactly what it's showing, because you're essentially pre-filtering the results based on this report type when people use it. Whereas cross filters, you're kind of leaving it in the user's hand to add that in there if they are creating their own reports. Where here you're doing it right out of the gate for them. We'll cancel this. We can also edit our layout. So maybe we want to hide certain fields from the report type. We don't want people to be able to use them. So we can actually, in our sections here, we can drag and drop. Let's look at a contact field that we might not have. Anything that's not grayed out means it's not in there, and then we can just slide it over. And you can create sections as well. So you could create a new section and you wanted to put certain maybe system fields down in a separate section, you can do that. One really cool thing is you can add fields via lookup. So through this, I can pick things that aren't on that object going through lookups. So maybe I want some information about the user, like, you know, maybe role. We can pull in fields from those other objects through those lookups. Evan Ponter, who runs Report Force with me, he's speaking, I think, later this afternoon. He has a really good article on our blog about using this method. And the premise is really start from the bottom and use your lookups to go outward. It makes your report type so much simpler and cleaner. You don't need a million versions of everything. You can basically suck in all those fields from the other objects through these lookup mechanisms. Really, really useful. All right, a newer feature is inline editing in reports. How many folks have users that you have to export a report for them or run it and they export it just so that they make updates in that file and make it data load back every week, right? It's awful. Who likes doing that? Nobody. So inline editing is a great feature for that. They can make those changes right on the report itself. There are limitations to the types of fields which are listed up here, but super useful to get in there and be able to do that. Some summer 22 features coming up. We'll now be able to have row limits in tabular reports. So in a dashboard chart, we can set the number of rows to return, so say top 10 accounts. There's been no way to do that in reports so far. Now we can do that in a tabular report. Give me my top 10 accounts, my top 10 biggest opportunities, that sort of thing. We'll have the median summary function. I know people have been asking that for quite a lot of time. And then filter in the report selector. This is pretty cool where it's hard to see over on the far right there, but when you're creating your reports, it's going to allow you to select what objects you want to base the reports from. It'll also tell you if it's a standard report or a custom report type. It'll also let you hide those for your users. If there's certain ones you don't want them to use, you can actually hide it from the same screen. Some other resources, again, Report Force, we have tons of free content. It's all focused on Salesforce reports and dashboards. Dashboard Dojo, that's run by David Carnes, he's an MVP from Boston. It's a free online, I think he does it monthly, where he walks you through how to do tons of different things with dashboards. And then if you're more into what used to be Einstein Analytics or Tableau CRM, I think I forget the names now. Salesforce Blogger, that's Ricky Hovgaard. She's a Salesforce employee. So all really great free resources for you. And after that, thank you very much for attending. Anybody have any questions? Well, join reports, it depends on what you're trying to show. If you're trying to show the relationship between objects, you would need to do it through a custom report type because there would have to be a relationship, whereas a joined report can show things that are completely unrelated. Yep, if you're just trying to produce like a with or without, I would use Crossfilters. To me, there's no need to do the custom report type. The custom report type is really when you're trying to bring in things from other objects that don't come with the standard out-of-the-box fields, or objects rather. Yep. Yep.
Inline editing for this view is restricted to a single account record type. Is the same restriction for the report inline editing, or can you edit everything?
I think you can, I honestly don't know the answer to that. I think you can edit anything. I don't think it's restricted to the record type. The fields themselves, the limitations on the fields, I think cover that. Anybody else? Okay, you go. So what I think you're asking, take a look at how many open cases did we have last week versus how many open this week? Yep, it's called a reporting snapshot. It's a feature you have to turn on. Basically, the way it works is you build a baseline report. So say you're, a report on cases that are open. Then you have to build a custom object that hold the fields that are in that report. So you literally have to mirror them. And then you turn on the reporting snapshot and select it to run daily, weekly, or monthly. And then that'll run and basically takes that report and it replicates every row as an object record in the custom object you've created. I'm actually working on an App Exchange app for that that's already done, and I have a blog post coming out on that. There are limitations on that. You can have only up to, I think, 2,000 runs of that, but that's exactly what it does. It shows you the point in time of those objects. Cool. I'll be up here and I'll be around the rest of the day. If anybody else has other questions, come on up and see me. Thank you.